Hello and welcome back to THU TV. My name is Christopher Nichols and I'll be hosting a series of talks during THU TV that's going to be broadcast on Facebook. But I want to remind you guys that THU TV is also available on video on demand. And there's going to be a lot of the talks that are going on at THU that you can watch. So go to trojan-unicorn.com and check out TV and go ahead and get the video on demand package, which is amazing, a great series of talks. My talks, they will be broadcast live now, which you're watching, is going to be about creativity and technology. And I have a great series of speakers, and I'm starting today with my good friend Kevin, who we've never actually met in person until a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yeah, until D2 a couple of weeks ago.
Right, in Vienna.
Yeah.
Which is great. I always meet people in different places around the world. Kevin does some very interesting thing. I know him as Kevin the Dane, and he uses that name himself for your social media purposes because I know that since you're Danish, your last name is a little hard to pronounce. But let's go ahead and tell people, what is your last name?
Yeah, well, my name is Kevin Gøhler.
Gøhler.
Gøhler,
okay.
But it's got like a special Danish character in it, so I can't really use it anywhere online because people can't pronounce it and they can't type it in.
They can't write the special character.
they can't do anything with it. So I was like, Kevin okay, I need a tag or
right.
Somehow, right? And I was just like, because I'm a generalist and I am into all kinds of different stuff. And when I started the YouTube channel, I wasn't really sure what it was going to be about.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about that because you obviously have an interesting social media presence you're doing, and you're trying to do that. And that's become very important for you, and we definitely want to promote that. But before people realize why you have that, let's explain what is your background. So where you obviously are involved in CG in some way, and you've been doing a lot of CG. So tell me a little bit about where that started.
Yeah, well, it started many years ago.
Many years ago, yeah.
Because my dad, he trained as an animator.
Oh, he did? For what?
And then he he went to a school in Denmark.
Oh, classical animation?
Animation workshop in Viborg, when it was all new.
Right.
So he trained for that, and he did a little work, and then he moved to Germany for a period of time, and worked at a studio in Germany.
Okay.
But then he got back and started doing 3D stuff. So he bought a version of 3D Studio Max.
Oh, okay.
The second one, I think.
Right.
R2. And then I had it on the computer. So in some of the
you
oldest,
were pretty young at the time, right? So.
Yeah, I was maybe like 13, maybe. 14, maybe. But when it was like 2001, I started doing stuff, but I didn't know anything, and there was like no tutorials, and my father, he had these large tutorial books.
There were books at the time, before YouTube's, right? So
he still got them.
Yeah, he still got them.
And with like miniature thumbnails, so you could never. I mean, and I just didn't get it. So I was just fooling around with it, and and just like making primitives and using modifiers, no poly modeling, no none of that.
Just learning how to do that stuff, and so that's how you started getting into it, right?
Yeah, that's how I got into it. But then I used it for some years, and then I went down other paths, and I had a lot of like different jobs. I was also in the military for a short while.
Okay.
And, after that, I started studying biology.
Okay.
And while I was studying biology, I was getting more and more like, everybody was asking me, so what are you going to do with it? And I was like, I don't know. I just find it interesting.
Right.
So I just wanted to learn it. And then my friend, he asked me if I still did that 3D stuff.
Oh, right.
And I was like, yeah, I could do that, because he needed like an animated introduction for a small short film they were doing at his school.
Yep.
So I made that small animation,
right?
And then I was like, I should try to figure out if I can like study this in Denmark and really learn it.
Yeah.
And then I found the 3D college in Gøhler, Denmark.
And what did you do there?
You start. I started on a generalist course.
Yep.
And then you split off into either high-end visual effects or game. depending on what skill set you want to acquire. So I chose the visual effects, and after the first year, you have a first year of like basic training.
Yep.
And after that, you have to go out and get an apprenticeship.
Right.
So you are an apprentice in 3 years at a company.
Yeah.
And then you are like maybe 10 weeks at the company, and then you're back to school for 5 weeks.
Okay.
And 10 years at the company and back to school, back and forth.
Yeah.
And that way, the company keeps paying you the salary even when you go to school.
Oh, nice.
And then the company is like...
They don't do that in the U.S. It sounds like a very Danish thing.
Yeah, it's a socialist thing.
very Scandinavian. You get paid for going to school.
We did.
Yeah. Well, that sounds amazing. And so I also know you obviously because you were at D2. You were very much into the arch-vis community as well. So how did you stumble into arch-vis? You said it was kind of a bit of an accident that you got into.
Yeah,
right?
That was kind of my boss now. He saw my first year exam.
Yes.
From a friend of mine who pushed it to him and was like, hey, check out this this exam. The exam is like you do images, video, and a website.
Yeah.
And then you put it all together, and
as a package.
And I put mine online with a contact form.
Yeah.
And luckily, I implemented the contact form because my boss he wrote me through the contact form.
He wrote an actual email, right? Oh, right, because you hit the contact button, right? Yeah.
So he contacted me and asked me if I wanted an apprenticeship, and I said yes.
Okay. And it was for an arch-vis company,
It was an arch-vis company, yeah. And I'm still there.
You're still there. How long have you been there?
What is it? Maybe 3 years now.
3 years? Okay.
I just finished education this summer.
Right.
And then he hired me on as a full-time
person,
employee.
Well, that's really interesting, and I like the fact that you've actually done or understand the visual effects side of things, and you're doing arch-vis. You don't keep them separate, but there is a lot of common tools between these things, right? So that's another thing that a lot of people don't necessarily realize. But there's a sensibility about it.
Yeah.
So let's talk quickly about your social channel and what you're trying to do in your videos, and what motivated you to sort of put yourself out there as a voice and someone who does that.
I think I was like a couple of years ago. I was watching a lot of YouTube videos about how to create movies, short films.
Right.
Because I had like a fantasy about like I want to direct something.
Of course, we all do.
So so I started doing that, and then I thought I wanted it to be a channel about movie making. But I just quickly realized that I'm not an expert in that.
Okay.
I don't know anything about that.
Sure.
So V-Ray 3.5 came out.
Oh yeah, that was not.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a review. I'm gonna like put my face on the channel, because previous to that, the channel was only 3 short films I did. So it wasn't like tutorials, and I didn't talk to the camera and all that stuff. So I did it with the V-Ray 3.5.
Right.
And I did a small, quick review.
That's what I like so much about your videos, is that they are quick, right? And you do that, I want to say it, but the very YouTube style where you fast edit and you put all that stuff together.
Yeah.
Because you can absorb that video very quickly, and you give a lot of information in a very short period of time. And I think they're great. I always like your videos. I always sort of, post them on Facebook and stuff, because I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, they're really good, and I think it's important that you decide to serve the community in some way, and to tell people some information. You did the one for 3.6 as well, I think, right? And
it was one of the more popular ones, yeah.
Yeah, and you also did. Remember when we were at D2, there was a big controversy about us, Chaos Group acquiring Render Legion and competition, etc. Yeah. But you really were, this is important. This is like you took it on. You're starting to take more of a journalistic approach to things, right? And I think that's really an important task, that you're using the technology to review technology and talk about the industry and do things, because that's where people are getting their information now. They're getting it from social networks, etc. What are your aspirations? What do you want to do more? Do you think you want to keep going, or are you just sort of seeing how it's going?
I want to do everything.
Really?
That's my problem.
Yeah, we all do. But
I want to go forward with the channel, and I've been following some guys online, especially a guy called Tim Smoyer. He's like teaching people how to make YouTube videos.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And I actually like studied his channel for half a year before I did anything.
Right.
Because I wanted to do it right from the start. He always says that you should build up a business around your channel, because you have an audience who trust you and who are interested in the same things that you're interested in. So if you build up your own products that you can sell to your community, you'll make a lot more money than from ad revenue.
Interesting. So give us some examples of what you're planning to do there.
There's no plans yet,
okay. But you at least
ideas are that maybe I'm a technical guy, so I do like scriptings and plugins at work.
Oh, okay.
So I could maybe sell packages of scripts or stuff like that.
Of course. I mean, the whole point of creating a market is to have an audience, right? And a good way to get an audience is to create content, and a good way to make content is to make really good content. That's, I think, is a brilliant idea to do that, and to leverage the fact that you're creating these very high quality, really interesting videos, that you keep getting an audience that wants to see them, and therefore it's a good avenue for you to sell and make a revenue on it. Yeah. Which brings up the point of THU, which I think is very interesting, is the struggle that people are having, because they may be very good artists or whatever, but they can't necessarily capitalize on it in some way. Yeah. So I think the fact that you are actually going out there and creating an audience, looking for an audience, that is something that has value, right? Yeah. Is there other, but look, I actually want to talk a little bit about the arch-vis thing, because it is an important part of what's going on at THU this year. There wasn't really an arch-vis audience here before. This year, suddenly, some stuff that Jeff Muddle and I said last year about it tried to draw an arch-vis thing, and Jeff has a huge influence, as you know, in the arch-vis community. Drew a lot of people in, including some of you guys, to come and check it out. What do you think about THU and how the content that's here can help some of that community, because you kind of live in both worlds, so maybe it'd be a good perspective for you to talk about that.
Yeah, so I mean, Jeff, he was one of the reasons that I came here, and you were actually the other reason.
Okay, nice.
Because on your podcast with after the one with Andre.
Oh right.
I went to get a ticket, and it was sold out. So
it was already sold out.
I was on the waiting list, and luckily I got one. So, sorry, what was the question?
The question is, like, what do you think about the content that's here, and how do you think it could help the architecture community, the arch-vis community? Because it's not necessarily, most of the talks are not necessarily directly about arch-vis.
No,
do you think they can? What do you think they can help in that process?
Yeah. Well, in the arch-vis community, at least in my experience and in Denmark, where I'm from, we have a lot of technical guys who knows how to use the software and make the images.
Right.
But maybe they didn't. They don't have the. They need creativity and inspiration, and they can really get that from a place like this, because this is not about technology. Right. Not that much, at least here at the THU. It's about the creative process and the creative process and the way that everybody can come together and create something meaningful and not just something.
Do you think that right now the arch-vis community sort of lacks that ability, in a sense of there isn't much voice in terms of the creative process? There isn't much creative inspiration in architecture besides just showing a still, and saying great architecture for rendering. There isn't something that's actually inspiring people and to do things.
I mean, a lot of people can make beautiful images and can make photorealistic images, but you need the story and that is the key element of the image.
Yeah.
And I think I see a lot of that missing, and also missed potential and opportunity to put a story or a narrative in your work, Like to move the audience more than just like make pretty pictures and sell apartments. There has to be something deeper, more meaningful.
Yeah. I mean, I think that honestly, you're right. That's exactly the thing. And there are these moments in the arch-vis community that really sort of changed everything, right? So I always sort of use the, what's an Alex Roman piece that he did, right? That was like a watershed moment where all of a sudden I was like, oh, because of exactly what you said, right? There was a story, there was inspiration, even though there was a feeling, and that story is not told to you directly, it's told to you indirectly. It's like an emotional story in some way. Exactly. And arch-vis does have that ability. So an example like that shows you that exists out there, but it's very hard to convey that information. And I really think that a thing like THU could help that community and get it inspired to do something more creative in some ways.
Yeah.
At the same time, I feel that the architecture community has something to offer the crowd at THU. Because one of the things that I feel is that THU a lot of the people that come here who are especially in the concept world, if you look at a lot of their concept drawings, they're character driven. Yeah. Right? They're doing characters, while environments are so important. And the architecture community can help serve that environment. And you've worked in arch-vis, so you know what an architecture space needs to look. You know what a door size is. You know what this. So those are things that we become familiar with, and we can serve that community as well as just general design.
And that's also going to be a lot more important as we see more and more like virtual reality stuff.
Yes.
The environments in virtual reality experiences or games, they need to be created by people who know how to create a believable, realistic environment, and not just a beautiful environment.
Yes.
Because an architect will know how to make a space that you want to be in.
Yes.
And not just you can make a space that is pretty, but it feels wrong or it feels off.
Yeah.
If the dimensions are off or...
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought that up because this is something that I think is very important. I think that the world of VR is exploding right now in a lot of ways. Yeah. And a lot of people are sort of going into the entertainment industry and trying to create content there. And they should draw on the architects to look into that, right? I would have loved to have seen a VR experience designed entirely by Zaha Hadid, you know?
Yeah, that would be great.
It'd be amazing because that's what, and the other thing that's nice about the architects or even the arch-vis companies, right? You guys could do this too, is VR is a new real estate space.
Yeah.
You can design an entire building or experience or city inside of VR as an actual space. Yeah, and
as something that is not ever supposed to be, or not even can be built.
Not ever can be built.
Because it's because like when you have to make an architectural building, you have certain constraints. You have the gravity.
Gravity, or laws like you know handrails. And you don't
Newton.
I need a handrail, but you don't necessarily need the handrails, right? So I think those are really good. Are you guys experimenting with VR stuff in your office?
Yeah, we have been ever since the Gear VR came out. We have been done still renderings with V-Ray and Corona.
Oh, right.
For our customers.
So you were actually, here's another important point, you were actually creating VR content and selling it, is that correct? Yeah. That's, I think, what's also important for people to do. It's not just experimentation in VR, you guys are actually producing VR and selling it and making money off of VR, right? And it's not just through, you know, donations or whatever, this is people that require it and want to use it for their experiences, right?
Because because our customers, they sell real estate, that's their goal, right?
Yep.
So when they get the glasses and they can put the glasses, the VR glasses on the customers. The customer gets just seeing the space in real life.
Right.
With the scale, that is something you cannot do that with an image or an animation. So
right.
So you really have to. It really gives something else, and our customers see the value of that. We make a lot of VR images for maybe half of our projects. We include VR images.
That's amazing to hear, and I think that's really valuable. I think people should know, because not everyone in this audience will know, that your customers are not necessarily architects, right? Your customers could be real estate companies.
Yeah, typically.
Or developers in some ways, right? So those guys are using it specifically to sell their real estate and their customers. So they actually do have deep pockets, and they need these images to sell their product, right?
Yeah.
And I think the VR experience is great because I would love to see what my building looks like, or my office, or my apartment before
Or the
it's
view,
built.
especially the view is
The view,
very important.
The view is very important. It's like, I'm buying an apartment that's on the 15th floor. What's my view going to be like? Right?
Yeah.
And so that's something you guys work on as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we do a drone shoot, or a guy with a big like a 30-meter stick with a camera, and he just points the camera in every direction, and we do a
right. So you get all the
dome.
different floors to do that.
So we can do the different views from the different apartments.
Right. And when you guys deliver your VR content, what are you guys doing? Are you just doing like stereo cube maps? Or are you doing you said you were using V-Ray and Corona, so I'm assuming you're doing stereo cube maps, right?
Yeah, cube maps or spherical maps.
Okay.
We actually, in the beginning, we did spherical maps, and then we did the cube maps for the final images.
Okay.
But the reason we did the stereo images was because you can actually see where you are when you're looking at it on the screen. So when you have rendered it out, you can orient yourself on the sphere.
Right.
Which on the cube map is everything is flipped and moved.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard as an artist to actually do that way. Yes,
yeah.
I agree.
Because we use it for corrections as well.
Okay.
To put the VR images in the glasses, and then look around, and one guy is just outside. There's something wrong here, 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 and I can see it on my screen.
Right.
Just like put a circle around everything, and with one image you have the entire room covered.
Right.
Whereas with renders, I would need 10 renders to check
to
everything.
check everything out. Yeah. No, they're really great. I've been a big fan of them, and it's actually very simple, right?
Yeah.
Most people, it's a camera selection in your render package, and you just render it out. What do you think are the differences that you see between actual stills and VR content in terms of how you organize it? You have to place the camera in a very different position, right?
Yeah, with the VR images, there's not really a lot of composition going on. Getting the height right is important.
Right.
And especially that's hard on rendered content, because my boss, he's a tall guy.
Yes.
When I think it looks right, he thinks the camera's too low.
Too low. Yeah, I know. I have that problem too. I'm a tall person, but it does help a lot for people to get scale, right? The minute you put it on, you're like, that's how far that looks. At least you get that right. Scale is so important, and I think it's so important to architects to see that a still can't give you as much scale, right? You can cheat scale by just using a wider lens, which real estate agents use all the time to make a room look bigger than it actually is, right?
We'll use a lot of wide angles as well.
Of course, well, it's a style, right?
Yeah.
But it's cool. So, okay, so tell me a little bit about your friends that are here, and then you know what? Because we're short on time, I want to go back to telling people where they can follow your stuff.
Yeah, they can. I mean, sure, YouTube. Yeah. Kevin the Dane.
Kevin the Dane on YouTube. That's your YouTube channel.
That's where the most of the stuff is. But there's also an Instagram with a little bit of some behind the scenes and some projects and some of the thumbnails from the YouTube channel. And then on Facebook, there's also a Kevin the Dane Facebook page.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you so much.